Hello viewers, it's Mr. Michael from Free Reviews, bringing you a new podcast, bringing you a new podcast in my separate called the Project Red Review. And like always, I'm going to speak very loudly, very clearly, and very slowly in case you don't understand me. Also, I try to do my best not to reach hard during this audio podcast recording as well, not to cause any audio feedback as well. And finally, if you're under 18, this audio podcast recording will change to adult language if you're under 18. Once again, if you're under 18, this audio podcast recording will change to adult language if you're under 18. Now, if you're over 18, that means you get to watch this audio podcast recording. Now, with this and everything else out the way, let's get into the latest episode of Gavan the Busy. So basically, we see Sushna, doing some laundry, hand washing some laundry. So basically, he put this handkerchief with his name on it, and basically, he starts to have a flashback about the girl that looks like Anwar, who is his commanding officer, who is a girl. Anwar is a girl. So basically, he had a flashback, I thought this girl that looks like Anwar back when he was done with his war, his Android war and whatnot. This chick had like it kind of looks like his commanding officer or whatnot, and basically, a brief flashback, and Anwar showed up, and basically, nice handkerchief, put your name on it, and basically, gangs, it was given to me by a very person, so, back in the day. So anyway, Anwar said that I have an assignment for you. Well, I have an assignment for you. Meanwhile, back on Earth, back on Raging, aka Gavan Definity's Earth, on the space station, we see Wasabi and Padawan, hanging out in the cafeteria area, talking about, how to prove their mental sharpness and whatnot, and basically we see Carol, who is the commanding officer, and basically who is in charge of Raisin's operation, going to different dimensions, collecting, negative smoke gears, just sitting there, hearing the conversation and whatnot, and basically, it took Padawan and Wasabi a minute to realize who Karen was. Now, Karen is a dude. So basically, they realized who Karen was, and basically, they basically understand why you have to keep raising, activities, going for different dimensions of secret and whatnot. And basically, there was Padawan and Wasabi were kind of sucking up to him. Maybe they can get, maybe they can get to be assigned to the unit where to the unit where Rage and the others are at right now. So basically, sucking up to Karen, and Karen's like, you guys made my day, and just pats them on the back and just laugh. Anyway, meanwhile, back on Earth. So basically, back on Earth's land, back on Testament Earth, we see, so basically, Raging and others came to Testament Earth because they detected it in negative smoke gear signature and whatnot, and basically, Anwar, met up with them on the ship, and basically, he's saying that, there's been some weird, strange activity going on with these matchmaking parties lately on our Earth. So basically, some girl named Marie, better known as a queen, these matchmaking parties, these matchmaking, costume parties have been causing some problems lately, and the fellas have been acting weird at them. So basically, so basically, we believe that the Marine might have a negative smoke gear that causing the men to go nuts. So basically, Aggie had the costume. So basically, we see Gavan was just like a freshman from the 1970s, from the 1976 and whatnot. Everybody had some period cartoons from 1990 on to 76 and whatnot. So basically, looked like Anwar was dressed up like a British general. We see Raging dressed up like a French gentleman at that time, and we see Cecil dressed up like a. I don't think he's British or like a different, like a British gentleman and whatnot. But anyway, so basically they went to the Max Maker costume party. So far, basically like nothing much has happened. It happened at this Max Making party until the lady Marie, known as Queen, showed up, and basically this was things start getting interesting. So basically, somebody dressed like a nun pulled a gun on Queen Marie, and basically, she said that you stole my boyfriend. Her boyfriend was right beside Queen Marie's side, and basically turns out that the girl, the young lady who was just like a nun, had a negative emote gear and used it to summon a emote monster, and basically that emote monster started to attack everybody. And it turns out that Marie also had a negative emote gear, and basically she used that negative emote gear on all the dudes, but it didn't affect, make all the dudes in the building, in the bubble fall in love with her. But it didn't work on Raisin or Cessna. Cessna is an artificial being, and as for Raisin, I think that Raisin's, his unique power, his crazy emotional powers must have shielded him from falling in love with Queen Marie and whatnot. But that has been, determined and whatnot, because of his unique, emote energy powers, must have stopped him from falling in love with Queen Marie and whatnot. And so basically, Raisin decides to deal with people in the remote monster while Anwar and Cessna go after Queen Marie. So basically, he was fighting off the guys who was under the power of the negative emote gear, of Queen Marie's negative emote gear, and basically fighting off the once he was done with them, he started with the remote monster at the bubble. Meanwhile, Anwar and Chester caught up with Marie. So basically, Marie used the negative emote gear to summon a emote monster. So basically, Chester transformed into his Bushido Gavan form and started to fight against the. So basically, started to fight against the negative emote monster, and basically, and while that was happening, Raisin managed to take down the guys who's under the negative emote gear's powers, and basically, started his focus on the remote monster. So basically, he used two weapons. So basically, he used the Detonator weapon, to suck up some water and basically do some water attacks with the Detonator in it, but it was not powerful enough. So basically, then he used the express weapon, basically combined it with his Gavatron trigger, and basically formed the Gavatron trigger express expressive weapon and basically destroyed the negative emote monster. So basically, so once that was done, Cessna did his finish on the emote monster after giving the speech about someone to attack, and basically he started to have another flashback about the girl he met a long time ago who gave him his name and whatnot. So anyway, that looks like a wall and whatnot. So basically, he did his twin sword finish. He did his twin sword finish, and that's when Queen Marie, or just Marie, explained why she did this, because I fell in love with the dude at a match party once, and basically he ended up dumping me and whatnot. So basically, that's the reason why I'm doing these match parties. Because just to get revenge on that. For my broken heart and whatnot. So basically, after I gave Marie it's all part of life to give her speech that sometimes being dumped is all part of life. So basically, you can meet another dude that really loves you, and basically et cetera, gave a speech about love. That's how love works and whatnot. Sometimes you do meet sometimes you do fall in love with somebody, but sometimes it doesn't always work out. But you just have to keep on trying. And basically, and that's why I'm gonna put the cuffs on Marie, and basically, Alma took Ray, and basically Cessna went back to his laundry with his handkerchief, and basically he started to have more flashbacks about the girl he met after that Android war, that he was a part of, and basically this girl that looked like Anwar, gave his name Cessna, gave him the name Cessna and whatnot, and basically told him that you need to live life to the fullest and whatnot, etc. And basically, Anwar showed up after Cessna was done with his flashback, and basically, whoever gave you that handkerchief, must be someone special to you. And basically, Cessna said yes, he was. So basically, Arwan gave Cessna a gift, a new handkerchief with his Gavan name, but she don't want it. And basically, that's how the episode ended with Cessna staring at the new handkerchief and staring at the old handkerchief, and that's how the episode ended on this note. So anyway, this was a good episode of. This was not a bad episode of Gavan the Physically. So basically, we got more of Cessna aka Bashir's backstory and whatnot in this episode. So anyway, we guys think about the latest episode of Gavan the Physically. Good, bad, or just okay. Please let us know in the comments below. So anyway, starting off from 3 views. 1.